The wood of a severed flagpole splintering in the dead of winter leaves a sound you do not easily forget. In a massive, crowded community of nearly 400 mobile homes, a silent war had been brewing for weeks over a piece of cloth. It all came to a head in the sharp, fluorescent glare of Judge Judy's courtroom, where two furious neighbors stood miles apart, separated only by the mahogany dark wood of the litigant podiums. Mr. Kohaliski, the plaintiff, stood at the front podium demanding justice for a ruined vehicle and a demolished flagpole. Across from him stood the defendant, Raymond, a military veteran whose jaw remained set in stone, completely denying the chaos he was accused of unleashing. The air in the courtroom was thick with resentment, the kind that only builds when people live too close together for far too long. Judge Judy peered over her spectacles, her sharp eyes scanning the paperwork, as she prepared to dissect a neighborhood feud that had spiraled completely out of control. Every single bit of this bitter dispute traces its way back to a sprawling mobile home park, containing anywhere from 365 to 396 individual units. In a neighborhood of that scale, you can easily live a quiet, anonymous life, which is exactly what Mr. Kohaliski had done near the front of the park for 7 long years. Raymond, on the other hand, was an established fixture of the community, having lived toward the back of the property for over 15 years. For more than half a decade, these two men existed in the same square acreage without a single major issue, passing each other on the paved community loops without a second thought. But local neighborhoods possess a fragile ecosystem, and all it takes is one highly visible, deeply polarizing act to shatter the peace. The quiet routine of the entire park was about to be permanently upended by a single decision made right outside Mr. Kohaliski's front door. The trouble truly ignited around January 14th, when a bizarre and unsettling event occurred within the park's boundaries. Mr. Kohaliski's domestic partner, a man named Charles, was walking through the neighborhood when he was suddenly struck and run over by a golf cart driven by another local resident. Though local law enforcement officers were immediately notified and rushed to the scene to investigate the collision, they ultimately determined the entire incident to be a completely blameless, unfortunate accident, meaning absolutely no criminal arrests were made. Charles survived the impact, but the household was left in a state of profound emotional distress, feeling utterly abandoned by the legal system and desperately wanting their community to recognize their pain. Searching for a powerful, unmissable way to signal their internal emergency to the world, they decided to make a dramatic statement on their property. They marched out to the tall metal flagpole, standing prominently in their front yard, unclipped the American flag, and intentionally hoisted it back up to the top, completely upside down. To Mr. Kohaliski and Charles, flying the stars and stripes upside down was a historic, legally recognized signal of extreme distress and protest. But to the hundreds of other residents driving past that front lawn every single day, the inverted flag felt like an intolerable, deeply personal insult. For 3 to 4 days leading up to January 20th, the neighborhood simmered with an uneasy, toxic energy as people stared at the inverted colors cutting through the winter sky. Passers-by who did not even know the couple personally began to take notice, their irritation hardening into genuine fury. A visitor named Kares Kachige, who had moved out of the park a year and a half prior but still returned to visit close friends, noticed the upside-down flag prominently waving in the air. The community was rapidly dividing into silent, angry factions, and it was only a matter of time before someone decided to breach the property line to confront the household directly. The inevitable explosion occurred on January 20th, when a motorized hum broke the silence of the front lawn. Raymond, utilizing his military background as a moral compass, steered his golf cart directly toward Mr. Kohaliski's home, his eyes locked onto the inverted flag. According to the vivid testimony of Kares Kachigi, who happened to be standing nearby, Raymond rolled up to the property and launched into a harsh, verbal confrontation with Charles over the position of the flag. Kares testified under oath that she distinctly heard Raymond unleash a severe, ominous threat, warning Charles that if he did not immediately turn the flag down or clip it the other way, that entire flagpole was going to come down. In that brief, highly charged moment, the upside-down flag ceased to be a simple neighborhood annoyance and transformed into the focal point of a volatile, dangerous property dispute. But inside the courtroom, Raymond painted a radically different picture of that exact afternoon encounter. He openly admitted to stopping his golf cart to speak with Charles, but he fiercely denied uttering any form of threat or hinting at property vandalism. Raymond explained to a highly attentive Judge Judy that his extensive military experience made the sight of an inverted flag deeply offensive and disrespectful to his core values. He argued that under strict military protocol and maritime law, an upside-down flag is reserved exclusively for two dire scenarios: a ship signaling life or death distress at sea, or a combat unit rendering a signal of surrender in lieu of a white flag. From Raymond's perspective, he was simply performing a civic duty by asking his neighbor if he realized the flag was upside down and requesting that it be properly corrected. The tense verbal standoff on January 20th left the neighborhood completely paralyzed by an open loop of suspense, with everyone wondering what would happen next. For 6 long days, the inverted flag continued to snap in the wind, serving as a constant reminder of the unresolved confrontation. Then, the brewing storm finally broke in the pitch-black darkness of the early morning hours on January 26. At approximately 5 to 5:20 a.m., a sudden, loud metallic crash echoed through the quiet streets near the front of the mobile home park. A startled neighbor rushed outside into the freezing morning air, took one look at the wreckage, and immediately alerted Mr. Kohaliski to the disaster that had unfolded while the entire park was sleeping. The scene daylight revealed was absolute chaos. The sturdy metal flagpole had been deliberately, cleanly cut down at the base by an unknown perpetrator using an unidentifiable tool. The heavy pole had crashed downward with immense force, cutting through the air before landing heavily across Mr. Kohaliski's steel perimeter fences. But the structural destruction did not stop there. As the massive flagpole collapsed, it struck Mr. Kohaliski's parked car, leaving behind severe dents and structural damage. The police were immediately summoned to the property, taking detailed photographs of the fallen metal resting on the fence lines and filing an official police report. Mr. Kohaliski was left facing a $500 insurance deductible to repair the vehicle, and he was absolutely certain he knew exactly whose hands had held the tool that cut the steel. When the responding officer sat down to take Mr. Kohaliski's initial statement, his suspicions immediately spilled onto the official record. According to the exact text of the police report, Kohaliski explicitly told the investigating officers that he was not entirely certain who had physically cut down the pole. However, he followed that admission by stating that one specific neighbor in the park had been far more angered by the flag than anyone else, and he firmly believed it may have been him. Armed with this official document, Mr. Kohaliski marched into small claims court, confident that the combination of Raymond's verbal threats on January 20th and the severed pole on January 26 would be more than enough to secure a $500 verdict. Judge Judy, however, is not a jurist who relies on neighborhood gossip or emotional assumptions. She immediately began grilling Mr. Kohaliski on the precise wording of his statement to the police officers. Holding the paper up to the light, she demanded to know how he could legally point a finger at Raymond when he had openly admitted to the police that he did not see the crime take place. Mr. Kohaliski attempted to pivot, relying on the testimony of Caress and the sheer timing of the events to bridge the gap. But Judge Judy kept her focus entirely on the lack of direct, eyewitness evidence linking the defendant to the physical act of vandalism. The courtroom drama intensified as Judge Judy brought up the foundational laws governing the entire United States. She looked directly at the feuding neighbors and explained that flying an upside-down American flag as a form of protest is an absolute right protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution. She acknowledged that while many of the 300-plus residents in the community might be deeply unhappy with the flag, emotional displeasure does not equal legal guilt. Judge Judy reminded the plaintiff that in a civil courtroom, the burden of proof rests entirely on the person making the accusation. Suspicion no matter how deeply felt, can never take the place of hard, undeniable evidence. The defense then launched into their own legal offensive, revealing that the neighborhood warfare had expanded far beyond the front lawn. Raymond's wife took the podium to address their sweeping counterclaim for harassment and false accusations, painting a vivid picture of life under a cloud of suspicion. She explained to the court that following the Flagpole incident, local police officers began showing up at their home to investigate the property damage. These police visits completely disrupted her household, waking her up from her sleep at highly irregular hours. She argued that the plaintiff's baseless accusations had turned the local authorities into a tool for personal harassment against her family. To prove the depth of the community's hostility, Raymond's wife attempted to introduce evidence of an ongoing campaign of online harassment. She detailed a pattern of highly negative, deeply hostile internet posts circulating on community forums, targeted directly at her and her husband. She described seeing digital photographs where literal crosses had been crudely drawn over their heads, accompanied by derogatory remarks calling them dumb. She asserted that these digital attacks proved they were the true victims of a coordinated neighborhood smear campaign. Judge Judy listened patiently before delivering a blunt, realistic lesson on the limits of courtroom litigation. She informed the defendant's wife that the court could not address anonymous internet posts unless the specific individuals who wrote them were identified and sued directly. Furthermore, she clarified that the police have an absolute legal right to investigate property damage claims, which includes knocking on a suspect's door at any hour of the day or night. Judge Judy explained that under the First Amendment, people are legally allowed to post offensive or objectionable comments online, just as Mr. Kohaliski was allowed to fly his flag upside down. With all the arguments presented, Judge Judy prepared to deliver her final, definitive calculations and verbal verdict. She looked at Mr. Kohaliski and stated that because he had 0 eyewitnesses who actually saw Raymond cut the steel, his claim for the $500 deductible had to be legally dismissed. She then turned her gaze to Raymond and his wife, explaining that because the police were acting within their authority and the online posters were not present in the room, their counterclaim for harassment also had to be dismissed. With a sharp rap of her gavel, Judge Judy officially closed the case, leaving both sides with absolutely nothing but a cold lesson in legal reality. Stepping out of the tense courtroom into the bright hallway, the two factions remained completely locked in their bitter mindsets. Mr. Kohaliski clutched his paperwork, visibly frustrated that the system had failed to hold his neighbor accountable for the destruction of his flagpole and the damage to his vehicle. Raymond and his wife walked away with severe expressions, still deeply resentful of the late-night police disruptions and the lingering sting of false accusations. The legal battle was officially over, but the deep-seated cultural tensions inside the mobile home park remained completely unresolved. If you want to see how other intense neighborhood disputes unravel under real legal scrutiny, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment with your thoughts on flag etiquette below. And watch our next video breaking down the wildest courtroom dramas in history.